I'm going to talk about Destiny 3 really quick and why, in my opinion, it is a requirement for the survival of the Destiny franchise at this point. There are other people out there like Aztecross who thinks that a Destiny reboot could also save the game. Personally, I think that would be wasted development time, even though his reasoning for going into a Destiny classic first would be because it would take less time to produce a Destiny classic than it would a Destiny 3. And as much as that is a valid point, unless Marathon Releasing makes a ton of developers come back over to the Destiny side of things, they simply don't have enough developers to work on both a Destiny Classic and a Destiny 3, even for whatever period of time. So personally, I think that a Destiny 3 is the only thing at this point in time. And you know, a Destiny Classic, it's great and all, and another thing that Aztecross does is compares it to RuneScape and how old school RuneScape or like World of Warcraft Classic kind of saved those games, but those are very different kinds of games is the problem. There's a big difference between a looter shooter and a game that has as much grindability as RuneScape, and yeah, like a lot of the reason that a person can restart a RuneScape character when a classic version of RuneScape comes out and still love, you know, replaying through that is because getting through all of the content in a game like RuneScape takes hundreds of hours of gameplay to do it even once. Even thousands of hours, if I'm being totally honest with you. Like maxing out all of your skills in that game, completing all of the quests, beating all the raids in RuneScape requires thousands of hours to do it all even once. Destiny is a little bit different. Even if Destiny 1 came out, if I were to play the game for thousands of hours, I would have to replay the same thing over and over and over again. There's not thousands of hours worth of gameplay in that game. And the reason that I'm so much more willing to do that for a game like RuneScape is because I've only done it once before, once maybe twice, or you know, something like that, right? So restarting a new character is a lot more doable for a game like that, or World of Warcraft, for example. So that's why Destiny Classic, while it would be nice for a short period of time, that's all it would be, is a short period of time. Everybody's done all those things many times, especially since a lot of the content in Destiny 1 has actually been brought into Destiny 2. So we have actually been doing a lot of that stuff still. So I don't think it would feel as new as some people think. I don't think it would feel as fresh. I don't think it would dig the community out of the hole that it's in the way that some people think. Which is why a Destiny 3 is required. And a lot of the reason that a Destiny 3 is required, in my opinion, is because Destiny 3, having it be an actual Destiny 3 is the only way to change core mechanics and aspects of the game that need to be changed. There is a lot about Destiny 2 that has been the same for a decade. And there's a lot about this game that just fundamentally needs to change because it feels so old at this point. And the only way to do that is with a launch, like a brand new launch of a brand new game. The gist of that point is just that, like, the game is too old at this point for there to be a solution within Destiny 2 or even within a Destiny Classic, because the games are too similar. The people that are playing this game have been playing it for a decade or more at this point in time. We're tired of seeing and doing things in this game that have been essentially the same for, you know, since the beginning of, you know, Destiny 1, essentially. And I'm talking, when I say change fundamental aspects of the game, I'm talking get rid of all of the current enemy types You know, give us something new. Get rid of the Fallen. Get rid of the Hive. Get rid of the Cabal. Even the stuff, like even the... I can't even remember off the top of my head what the type of enemy is called, but all of the enemies that came along with the final shape and things like that, right? They're nice. They're the newest, and I enjoy fighting them more than any of the other enemy types for that reason. But I've still spent enough time fighting them that I'm tired of them too. Especially since they're usually mixed in with a bunch of like Cabal or Taken. That's another thing. Taken. As much as Taken are awesome, I'm tired of fighting them too. They need to be getting rid of as well. Got rid of as well. So yeah, I'm talking either seriously backseat all of the current enemy types, or get rid of them entirely, because we're all tired of fighting the same enemies that we've been fighting for a decade. Other fundamental aspects of the game that just really need to change, like, it might be controversial maybe, but in my opinion, the concept of classes in general need to completely change too. What I mean by that is, just like we need to get rid of enemy types, we need to straight up get rid of Hunter, we need to get rid of Titan, we need to get rid of Warlock. And we need to have completely new classes that have completely new subclasses that we've never seen before. I think the classes that we've been playing for more than a decade at this point in time, we've played them out. We've played as these classes for as long as we can. And we need a really drastic change in that regard, especially because the character that you play as, the class that you play as, is the core fundamental aspect of how you play the game the whole time that you're playing it. And so when you've spent thousands of hours playing the game the way that I have, and you've spent thousands of hours as the same character, that basically means that you spent thousands of hours playing the game the same way, to a degree, just because of the class that you're playing as. So we need something new there too. And maybe the answer isn't get completely rid of all of the other classes, just bring a new one into the game, or maybe combine them all into one. I don't know. There are a few different options that can be done there, but I think if you were to just add a new class to the situation, all that would result in is everybody only playing that class, and then all the other classes get completely neglected. That's why the classes the way they are now would still need to fundamentally change. Alongside that, we need to do what we were hoping would happen in the Edge of Fate, and leave the soul system behind. There was a lot of excitement and hype around the cutscene when we first see the planet Kepler in the Edge of Fate trailers, where everybody was like, holy crap, are we finally leaving the solar system? People were so excited about that. That was going to be so cool. And then that just didn't happen. And I think that was a seriously missed opportunity. I think the soul system is screwed. I think if we have been playing and trying to fight for the soul system for more than 10 years now, and we haven't reclaimed any ground at all, we're still just operating out of the last city and the tower, like that system is clearly screwed. We need to abandon it and go to a different one. And not just for the narrative, but also just because the planets that we have access to and everything like that, we spent too much time on at this point in time. You know, even if you were to bring back like Mars, for example, or something like that, it would still just be more of the same old stuff that we've had in the past. So we need brand new. And one of the better ways to do that, as far as the locations that we have access to and the narrative that we can play around them, is to just go somewhere brand new. Leave it behind. Another thing that we really need from a Destiny 3 is better character development for our character. Okay? I'm tired of my character being some voiceless random nerd who apparently is the most important character in the entire game, but we don't know how to talk still somehow. And even though we're the most important character in the game, there's not really any like lore about us. And there's not really a whole lot about us. There's no real character development of us. It's just always the Vanguard and you know, the characters around us that the narrative is revolving around, or the, you know, those are the characters that are being developed at any given time. There's never anything about us specifically. And that's something that Destiny 3 would absolutely need, is more character development for our character. Every game, it does not matter what kind of game it is, every game is better when your character is both customizable, the more customization the better, and has actual character development and immersion. Every game is better when your character has those things. And it's something that Destiny has been severely lacking for way too long. Another thing that I do completely agree with a lot of other people in the community, especially as to cross in, and it's something that I've had an increased appreciation for as I have been playing RuneScape again recently. Yes, I just dropped that name as well. It's not just Azzacross that has played RuneScape in the past and loves that game. But I've actually recently gotten back into RuneScape and grown an appreciation for individual and clan housing. There are a lot of people who don't think that that's actually an important feature and that it really isn't that impactful to the game, but it is. It absolutely is. It's seriously undervalued, and it's something that people can invest a lot of time into, and it's something that can help them get a little bit more attached to their character, provided the character has appropriate development as well, and something that gives them a very literal place that they can call home in the game. And feeling like you can call a place in the game home is something that's really underestimated, I feel like, in a lot of games, especially games that are as big as Destiny and that you expect to continue to play for as long as they want us to be playing this game. All right, so another thing that makes Destiny 3 a requirement is there are simply far too many weapons in the game at this point. We need to start fresh. Get rid of all current exotics and weapon perks as they are now. All of them. Okay? Do not bring any of them back unless the community asks for it. Okay? We've been using the same exotics for way too long. We've been using the exact same weapons for way too long. And I have very literally hundreds of really great weapons wasting away, collecting dust in my vault. Great weapons, god roll weapons that are just gathering dust in my vault because I have a dozen other weapons that do the exact same thing, but a little bit better. It's a problem. I have way too many weapons that go completely unused, and I still feel the obligation to keep a lot of them and have them taking up the space in my vault that they are, because of the way that the sandbox ebbs and flows with buffs and nerfs. I have to keep one of every archetype and every like elemental type and everything like that, because what if this weapon archetype ends up getting buffed and is somehow suddenly the meta? So because of that, I have to keep all of these weapons that I literally never ever use and have a dozen of the same kind. It's a problem. And that's a huge reason why we need, like another huge reason why we absolutely need another Destiny why it has to be a Destiny 3, and why it has to be a complete overhaul with completely new exotics, completely new weapons and perks, because the ones that we have now, there are just too many of, and we've been using them all for too long. And I know that Bungie can be creative enough to come up with intriguing new perks and things like that, because they are doing that still. Every once in a while, we'll get a new perk, just like this one, for example. We got a brand new perk with this weapon in the event, the Wildering Burst. This is brand new, and it's a good perk. It's a very intriguing perk. The issue is that we already have a lot of other things like kinetic tremors and all these other perks that just make it not really stand out a whole lot, because there are so many other weapons that just do so many great things just as good. The weapon sandbox needs a clean slate. The weapon system is fundamentally broken because there's just way too many. We just have way too many weapons in this game. We need a clean slate. All right, another reason that a Destiny 3 is required at this point in time is for new players. As to Cross made a brilliant video recently going over the new player experience that was absolutely valid. The new player experience is trash. And when you've got a game that the veteran players are abandoning, you rely almost entirely upon new players. And when you can't onboard the new players, that dooms the game for failure. So at this point in time, a Destiny 3, a brand new game is required, because you need a way to both onboard new players and keep old players engaged and intrigued. And Destiny 3 would be the only way to do that at this point in time. One of the reasons that new players can't get into this game is not just because the onboarding process is literal trash, but the game fundamentally is just too complicated. It's too complicated for new people to get into it. There's too much content in the game for someone who's starting from scratch, and it doesn't take long for that to become the case. Both new and returning players just can't be bothered to try and get into this game because there just simply is too much bloat in the game. There's too little direction. It's because there's a ton of content and you don't know what to do with it. You don't know what to be focusing on at any given time. And you don't know what the purpose behind most of it is, because we're a dozen expansions deep at this point in time, but the game still wants you to start from the most recent expansion as soon as you're out of the onboarding. As soon as you're out of the new player experience. And so now suddenly you're learning about the 9, even though you were introduced into the Witness, but then what happened to the Witness and what happened with all these other expansions before that? You're never told. You're never guided in any way, shape, or form in that regard. But you have a lot of content in the game that's revolved around it, and you have no idea why. It's a problem. I have a good friend who recently picked up the game for the very first time, and I have watched him go through the onboarding experience, and it's been kind of painful to watch. Not because he's not a competent player, because he absolutely is, and he's one of the smartest people that I know, but because the game provides so little direction, has so little purpose, and still so much content behind all of that a new player doesn't know what to do with, it just creates a very, very repellent experience for a new player. Another reason that Destiny 3 is required at this point is something that is fundamentally broken within Destiny 2 and has been for a long time, which is the reward system in general. Rewards just are simply not worth the effort at this point in time. Just like what I was talking to my friend earlier as I was trying out the Festival of the Lost here. I don't care. I don't care about the rewards because I've got a dozen of them. Rewards just aren't worth it anymore. I just don't care about them anymore. And I feel like there are some people who may end up getting annoyed by losing all of their gear in Destiny 2 or not having the best stuff for a period of time. And honestly, I don't care. Like, let them whine, let them complain. If they want the best stuff in the game bad enough, they'll get it. And they'll have something to do for a while they do so. Gjallarhorn back in the day was worth getting because it was the best weapon in the game. And you still see it every once in a while with weapons that are just completely broken in Destiny 2. As soon as there's something that's broken in Destiny 2 that puts value on a weapon in the game, everybody loses their minds over it. That's all anybody wants, and they grind for it, and they grind hard, which proves that that's still in us. We still want to do it, and we still have it in us. We just need a reason. But Bungie is way too persistent about having everything be balanced just so. They won't let us have any fun with the overpowered stuff for any period of time. They're so obsessed with balance, and it creates this this feeling of pointlessness behind it all. Let there be something that's better. That's what'll make us want it. That's what makes it worth getting. One of the periods of Destiny 2 specifically that kind of has lingered in my mind for years now, that I have never really heard anybody else point out or bring up, is back when Wishender was broken. Wishender specifically. There was a period of time where Wishender was doing like 4 times more damage than it was supposed to, because the perk of Wishender was it would do damage on initial impact, and then the arrow would penetrate through the target and do additional damage on exit as well. So it was doing 2 numbers of damage every shot. There was a bug for a little while where it was doing like 4 and 6 ticks of damage instead of just 2. And it was so broken, but it was so fun. It was so fun. And one of the things that was really cool about it was because it was a bow, it has limitations still, because it is most effective at a medium to long range, and it has a somewhat slow draw time, so you can't fire really, really fast. So it was like overpowered, but still kind of balanced. And because of that, Bungie left it in the game for a long time. I'm not talking something like what they did with the crafting, where they were just like, go nuts for a week. Right? They left it in the game for months. They left this crazy overpowered bug in the game for months. And I had so much fun with it. It's all I used for that period of time, and I had so much fun for every minute of that time. It was so nice to have something in the game that was worth having. I didn't have it originally when I'd heard about it too. So I had the initial grind to obtain it, and then I got to have the payout from getting it. I got to have something that was overpowered for a little while, and I got to have fun with it for a while. I had fun with the thing that I worked for a time before it got nerfed. And I'll never forget that. Something like that is what needs to be commonplace in the game, not something that happens for a week because of some unintentional bug. Another thing that's fundamentally broken in Destiny 2 is PvP. And it is a travesty that Bungie has let PvP go the way that they have and neglected it the way that they have. The PvP player base of this game are the diehards in this game. They're the ones who will spend hours upon hours upon hours playing the same game mode over and over and over again and never get tired of it. And alienating them and abandoning them the way that Bungie has is disgraceful. One of the things that PvP would desperately need in a Destiny 3 is a separate sandbox from PvE. Okay? So much of the reason why Bungie has obsessed over balancing the way that they have and nerfing things when they get powerful the way that they have is because of the effect and the imbalance that it creates in PvP. That is actually a problem. PvP does need balance. It absolutely does. That's why you have two separate sandboxes. You let something be broken in PvE. You let it be overpowered in PvE, and then you fix and create an isolated sandbox for PvP where things can be balanced and the way that they should be. Another thing that PvP absolutely needs is dedicated servers. When Bungie came out and was like, we understand how important dedicated servers are for PvP, which is why we have them for Marathon. They pissed so many Destiny players off because we've been begging for dedicated servers for a decade. And all that Bungie did in that announcement was prove that they had the ability to give us dedicated servers, and they just haven't. Another thing that is a huge problem with Destiny 2 right now is the time investment. Staying relevant in the game feel like a full-time job. That is so broken in so many ways. Nobody should ever be able to describe playing the game that they enjoy as a hobby as a full-time job. You should not feel like you're working another full-time job just to stay relevant in the game. And Bungie has addressed this to a degree by seriously nerfing the power grind, but man, that was a mistake, and I hope they've learned their lesson, because making that mistake with a Destiny 3 would be bad. All right, we're almost done. We've only got a couple more points to go. Another thing that is fundamentally broken in Destiny 2 that requires a Destiny 3 just because of the infrastructure required to make the changes needed is inventory management. And you know, we're hearing a lot about how sometime after Renegades the vault update will come around, and I don't have high hopes for it. I don't think it's going to actually solve any issues, if I'm being honest with you. From what we have learned about it so far, I fully expect it to be a very underwhelming change to inventory management and the vault. With inventory management, one of the fundamental things that just really needs to be different is I shouldn't feel like inventory management is a completely separate game of its own. I had a stream a couple weeks ago that the entirety of the stream was me going through my vault, and that's obnoxious. That is too much. But it's not even the vault cleaning that it takes way too much time. I mean, I spent 30 minutes just going through my inventory in Postmaster earlier today when I first started playing this event. Like, I don't get onto Destiny to play inventory management. It's a problem. And it needs to be reworked drastically. I've thought for a long time now that the collections section of the game was completely pointless. Like, yes, it's nice to have things unlocked and have them in the collections, but what's the point of that? Nobody can see that except for you. So I've thought for a really long time that you should be able to reacquire stuff from collections more. And the reason that this has been a problem in the past, or something that Bungie moved away from in the past, was because of static rolls. The only way that you were able to reacquire something is if it didn't have randomized perks. But can you explain to me why we can't obtain a roll, a randomized roll of something, and then like just save that roll somewhere in collections? Like why can't I come over here to this gunburn that I got earlier today, press a button that says save to collections, and then get rid of it and go and reacquire this roll that I have obtained later on? Why would that be a problem? I feel like that would be so much more organized and so much more efficient. You could even save multiple rolls of something. You just, when you hover over it to reacquire it, it just shows all of the rolls that you've saved. And then you can inspect the item like this and select which rolls you want to keep or reacquire. It wouldn't be that hard, and it would be significantly more user-friendly and significantly more organized, and the capacity would be significantly larger. All right, my last point is a very fundamental baseline issue that I feel like most people know, but some people may not have really considered it, so it needs to be talked about. And it's a really big reason why a Destiny 3 is required for pretty much any of these changes that are necessary to the game. And it's the fact that Destiny's codebase and engine is simply out of date. They've tried to make updates and optimizations to the Tiger engine over the years and to the game over the years, and they've done a great job of that. I will admit, like they've done wonderful with what they had, but it's just been too long now. It's just too out of date. They've fallen too far behind. And so Destiny 2's infrastructure fundamentally at this point in time is just way too old. And it has been for a while. It's too limiting in too many ways, and it needs a complete overhaul. A lot of people, when content creators mention this point specifically, the criticism that they receive is, you're not a dev, how do you know anything, like how would you know anything about this, how can you share any opinions about it and things like that. But like I am actually a software engineer. I work in code for my job. It's not game development that I do, but I do still know a lot about how code works and what the life of a developer is like and what it requires. And I know firsthand just how much development time can be completely wasted sifting through something like spaghetti code. When code is unoptimized, it's noticeable. And when it's out of date, it's noticeable. And when you've had too many hands in the kitchen, it makes a huge difference. And it makes completing one task that should take a couple of days tops sometimes take a week or more. I have had tasks on my development teams that should have only taken a day take more than a week, just because, in fact, I actually had one recently that should have only taken a day or two take more than a month because too many people had a hand in it. There were too many cooks in the kitchen, and it just resulted in there being a lot of confusion around that, how, like, the logic behind the code. And as a result, it made one thing that should have been really simple take forever. And I can only imagine that gets even worse with something like game development, especially when they're constantly utilizing things like contractors and temporary people to create their code, and they're outsourcing it and things like that because there's no consistency behind the code. And code is fundamentally logic at the end of the day. So if the developer that is currently working on a feature can't really understand the logic, that like the way that the person who was working on this feature before them was actually thinking through the logic themselves, if there's no way to like really figure that out, and then they have to figure out their own thing, and that just creates more confusion and more spaghetti, and it creates a problem for the development cycle, and it makes things take way longer than they should, and it also makes it turns a lot of it into slop that very easily creates game breaking bugs like what we've had recently. Because I know how much outsourcing and how many contractors Bungie has worked with over the years, it hurts me to think about how many different hands have touched Destiny 2's code base at this point in time. There have been thousands of people that have contributed lines of code to this game over the years. And trying to get all that to work together well, it's at this point in time, it's a lost cause. You got to start fresh. You got to get it optimized. And yeah, a lot of the reason that this is required is not just because of all the potential that it can unlock within the game as far as its capabilities and scope, but also because it will make the game run consistently more stably and eliminate a lot of the unnecessary bugs that find their way into the game. It'll make it a lot harder for bugs to be created because the code base itself is fundamentally and structurally sound and solid and consistent. And that is important for a code base. So yeah, those are the reasons why a Destiny 3 is the only direction that this game can go at this point in time. And I think Bungie is unfortunately too much of a wuss to put it all on the line to do that. I think they're way too scared of being unprofitable for a long period of time, like it would take. I understand that it will take several years to make a Destiny 3. I get that. I would rather wait 3 years for a Destiny that I really want to play, that is new, that is amazing, and feels the way that Destiny should feel, than continue to be disappointed by Destiny 2 for the next 3 years the way that I have for the last year and a half. And even periods of time before that. I would rather have no more content added to Destiny 2 for the next 3 years, 3 to 5 years, however many. I would rather have that than to be constantly disappointed by Destiny 2 the way that I am. But I understand that Bungie is never going to do that because they need their cash cow to keep cashing in. And even more so right now because of Marathon. I don't see, though, why it's not something that they could just take the hit for, though. They have billions of dollars at their disposal, and they're backed by a company that has billions more. They need to take a chance on themselves and invest in themselves instead of just trying to milk this game for all it's worth. Take some pride in the game that you make. Put some passion into the game that you make again. Because the player base can tell that that passion isn't there anymore. And it's reflected in the game. And nobody wants to play a soulless game. No one wants to play a game with no passion behind it.